Okay, I'd just like to say a couple of key points I'd like to make is as far as this Occupy Wall Street movement. The first one is, as Dylan Radigan says, get the money out of politics and reverse that 5-4 Supreme Court ruling. The second topic is what we're discussing on the Whole World Watching TV channel, which is Wall Street counterfeiting the stock market that messed up the whole world financially. The third point I'd like to discuss is about the news media revolution of the future, and let Cameron walk you through his TV channel where you'll get real live information instead of opinionated news by these TV networks that are constantly misinforming the American people in the world. So Cameron, can you explain Whole World Watching and your TV channel, what you're setting up here for the viewers?
Absolutely. See, what we want to do now is we want to make sure that all of you out there participate with us. We are now the news, right? Because let's face it, let me give you an example. Richard and I are involved with a company that has a $3.87 trillion lawsuit pending. That's right, with a T. $3.87 trillion. Now just think for a minute. Have you heard of it?
Heard of a $3.87 trillion lawsuit against the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission Chairman, Marielle Shapiro, as well as several other current and former SEC commissioners? Probably not. It's presented as the largest fraud case in world history, and it's happening right here in the U.S. But nobody is bothering to talk about it.
Probably not. I mean, wouldn't you think that would make worldwide news? A $3.87 trillion lawsuit? It's not on ABC, CBS, Fox, CNN. I mean, come on, right? So the reality is we need to make sure that the news is real. So we're going to ask you to help us. First off, if you go to our website, which is www.nakedshorted.com, there's a page on it. The page called TWWW, the Whole World Watching. Okay? So you go to the Whole World Watching on our website and you'll see the streaming video there, which is all the content that we've put in there and that some of you will be sending us. All you have to do, if you see something live or you get it on your camera, on your cell phone, on your iPhone, and you put it up on YouTube, you send us the link to it.
Yeah, basically we're trying to set up this TV channel to bring the information to the people throughout the world, you know, the whole world watching on the live stream with Cameron. But I'd like to have him discuss how important Occupy San Francisco is to bring these two cases to show the world. One of them is CMKM with attorney Al Hodges. He has to do a filing on December 5th. And once he files what he knows, we're going to bring it to the people what is in these documents. And it's very important for the people to understand what took place with these behind the scenes dirty tactics of Wall Street. And secondly, the major trial that's scheduled for trial now, March 5th, Overstock versus Goldman Sachs and Merrill Lynch, which is also part of Bank of America now. So Cameron, can you tell the audience as far as the connection and the importance of both these trials and how the American people need to know what's going on?
Yeah. See, back at that caused the Depression, they eliminated a rule that was called the uptick rule. And it really was kind of a basic rule. There's two things that have reformed that we really need to keep in place in our financial market. Number one is the uptick rule. It meant that they couldn't short the stock because they put this down pressure on the stock, if you will. They weren't allowed to short it unless it was on the uptick, okay? Which actually would benefit them financially if it dropped back down again. However, they wanted to make sure that everybody wasn't pushing the stock down, okay? Well, this uptick rule was eliminated in 08. They thought that they didn't need it anymore, and look what transpired. And then everybody came running back in, and I think there was, how many companies were there, Richard? I think there was 13 companies that they said that you couldn't short at that point in time. What happened to the rest of them? Everybody else could be naked shorted, but not those 13 companies? Anyway, the biggest naked shorted company of all times is a company called CME. MKM Diamonds. Now, this is a small mining operation in Saskatchewan, Canada that had millions of acres of claims, and as the story goes, they had a lot of value in the ground, and the stock was being promoted tremendously through race cars, and all kinds of, the people were just coming from all areas of the country to buy this stock. They were promoting it. There was 600 billion shares of stock in the marketplace, 703 by the time they were done, authorized shares. And it's estimated that they sold an additional 2.25 trillion shares of stock into the marketplace that didn't exist. So think about that. That's in excess of 3 trillion shares of stock that's in the marketplace. And even if it's worth sub-penny, we all know that's an awful lot of money. So anyway, we did a presentation to the Office of Financial Regulation here in Florida, in which we showed them what we believed took place, what we were told took place by people who were affiliated with the company, and that is that the CEO of the company bought back 100% of the shares and put them in a trust. And then he asked all of us to pull our certificates out of the marketplace. So we actually got our certificates right out of the marketplace. Right? So we pulled these certificates out, everybody, in cert form, okay? And the task force accumulated all of these in these boxes. We did the only successful cert pull in the history of the stock market, and guess what? Now it's the last one. Because after we did this and we pulled 632 billion shares of stock out of the marketplace in certificate form, they now passed a regulation that said that the companies could not organize a cert pull like that ever again. Now, an individual can get their certificate out of the marketplace, but a company can't do that.
Sting operation was essentially set up using this company, using characters that were known within CIA and FBI circles. Bob Mayhew, who was a lawyer with roots in the CIA and FBI, to use a sting operation to basically entrap criminal wrongdoers that were selling unregistered shares of stock to people who thought that they were actually buying real shares. There's evidence suggesting within the public domain that anywhere from 259 billion shares were sold unregistered in a couple of hundred transactions through one broker named Darrell Johnson, or Anderson Johnson, I believe. And the SEC has also acknowledged itself that over a 20-month period, as much as 622 billion unregistered shares were sold. And so there's a lot of different elements of what's going on here. The allegation is also that through the sting operation, in a meeting in Las Vegas, essentially a whole bunch of criminal wrongdoers were brought together and they were given an option. Pay us a certain amount of funds based on the number of unregistered shares that have been sold, and we won't prosecute you. Now, some evidence that is within this lawsuit, and per the filing attorney, Al Hodges, he says he has a witness who was in that room. They say they can prove that up to 2.25 trillion unregistered shares have crossed over the markets.
Because as the story goes again, Mr. Urban Cassavant, CEO of the company, showed up and said, hey, where'd all the stock go? I have it all. It's over here in this trust. And they were caught. So, with a gentleman by the name of Bob Mayhew, who you may remember as being the right-hand man to Howard Hughes in the cleanup of Las Vegas, he was on our task force, and basically he negotiated a deal with these brokers, and they had to pay to buy the stock that Urban had, to retire it, to make ours legitimate. Well, now that money that was accumulated, the SEC supposedly is keeping that from the rightful owners, which is the shareholders of CMKM Diamonds, and hence the $3.87 trillion lawsuit, Bivens Actions lawsuit, being done by Al Hodges. It'll
called a Bivens class action lawsuit, which basically is a type of case that is upheld under a 1971 Supreme Court ruling that allows private citizens to sue federal officials in a personal capacity. So one thing to point out immediately is that this lawsuit is not against the United States Securities and Exchange Commission per se. It's against the individuals that are actually running it.
So if it moves on past December 5th, it'll also happen in San Francisco. So now we have two huge naked shorting cases happening in San Francisco. And the verdict of these two could set the stage for the financial reform that we need across the board. These are two opportunities for us to make the brokers pay back what they took. Hence, our motto on Occupy Wall Street, pay it back or go to jail. Well, the lawsuit's right around the corner, right? Patrick Byrne, Overstock.com, the David and Goliath story, right? Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch, the big guns. It's getting closer, Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch. It's getting closer, and guess what? All of you need to join us. We need to watch it because you'll be with the whole world watching.